Breaking news here on CTV News Channel as we are confirming more ministers set to be shuffled out of cabinet. CTV News has learned of 3 more ministers set to be shuffled out. And let's bring in CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver for more on this. Okay, this all coming ahead of what's expected tomorrow. Talk to us about these latest cabinet ministers that we're learning of.
Well, Lois, this is going to be an extremely large cabinet shuffle. Sources are telling us that almost the entirety of the current cabinet is going to either get a new position or be moved out. So this is big. We know 4 cabinet ministers are not going to be in because they announced in the last 24 hours that they are not going to be running in the next election. So that's the Transport Minister, Omar Al-Gabra, that's Helena Jasic, the Minister of Public Services and Procurement, Joyce Murray, Fisheries and Oceans, and Carolyn Bennett, Mental Health and Addiction. So in addition, though, to these 4 cabinet ministers who announced they're resigning, we've also learned of 3 more ministers that sources are telling us are going to be out of cabinet. That's the Public Safety Minister, Marco Mendicino, the Justice Minister, David Lametti, as well as the Treasury Board President, Mona Fortier, who was actually supposed to be at an event here in Ottawa this morning, but at the very last minute, her parliamentary secretary was sent in to replace her. So again, we're being told by sources that almost the entirety of cabinet is going to be getting new positions. We know of just a few people who are keeping their positions. We've been told by sources that Melanie Joly will stay in foreign affairs, that Chrystia Freeland will stay as the finance minister, Champagne will stay in industry, and the environment minister, Stephen Guilbeault, will stay as environment minister. We sort of got a little bit of inkling that was the case yesterday when he left for the G20 meetings in India, but that is now confirmed from our sources.
Yeah, Annie, and let's be a bit clear here. Is it that the ministers are just resigning from politics? They're just taking on a new life after this and they're not running for re-election, or is this more of a move pushing them out?
So there are 4 ministers who have announced that they're resigning. The other 3 ministers are just being pushed out of cabinet. Then, in terms of why are those 4 resigning, we're not 100% sure. We do know that there have been conversations between the Prime Minister, his staff, and cabinet ministers dating back several months, essentially talking to them about their future, whether they intend to continue running in the next election, and whether cabinet ministers are really ready for a potential fight with the Conservatives whenever this election does happen. Another thing we really know, Lois, is that sources are saying this cabinet shuffle is really all about preparing the Liberal government for any type of upcoming election to really show the difference to Canadians between the Liberals and the Conservatives. And we're also being told by sources that the Prime Minister with this cabinet shuffle is really trying to shore up his economic portfolios, put people in places who are very good communicators, and to try to show Canadians that their emphasis is on the cost of living, affordability, and of course housing, areas that are really touching Canadians on a day-to-day basis. And the government is going to try to do this cabinet shuffle with that in mind. And we're told to expect, some decisions that show that the government is trying to make this a priority.
Okay, and Annie, I'm told that NDP leader Jagmeet Singh is now reacting to this news. Let's go to him.
Mr. Singh, good afternoon. I'd like to ask you a question about the cabinet shuffle, which is imminent. I'm wondering if you could tell us what you're hoping to see come out of the shuffle.
Well, what I've said before regarding the shuffle to me is not going to undo the fact that this government has had 7 years to respond to serious crises like the climate crisis. And their track record speaks for itself. This is a government that has had 7 years to invest in communities to help them with better mitigation, better adaptation, better resilience to deal with the realities of the climate crisis and extreme weather. The government has not done that. The Liberals have not responded with the urgency necessary. We're dealing with a housing crisis. We're dealing with a cost of living crisis, and this government hasn't done enough. And everything that they have done when it comes to the cost of living has been what we have forced them to do, to bring in a doubling of the GST rebate, dental care for children and seniors and kids 18 and under by the end of this year. We have forced them to deliver the things that have made life a little better for people, but there's still so much more that needs to be done to give people a real break from the cost of living pressures. We need to take on the high cost of grocery prices and take on the corporate greed, which is driving up the cost of living in a significant way. So whether the government shuffles or not, it will not change the fact that they have 7 years to respond to these challenges. And what I hope to see is that Justin Trudeau starts taking these challenges seriously and starts responding with the urgency required.
Okay, I'll just follow up there and ask, this shuffle is supposed to be out about renewal and resetting priorities for the Liberals. Do you have any thoughts about possibly renewing or resetting or changing the confidence and supply agreement that you have with the Liberals?
Well, I hope this government starts to take things seriously. We need to respond to the climate crisis in a very serious and urgent way. We need to build more homes rapidly so people can find a place to call home that's affordable. We need to see real investments to make life more affordable for people who are saying, we are struggling with the cost of living. And we need to see some real action from this government. So we'll continue to use the power that we have, but ultimately, the government has to start taking these things seriously so that people can get a break.
Our next question comes from the Canadian Press. Mickey, go ahead.
Thank you. I guess my question is kind of on the same topic. How do you expect that this cabinet shuffle will affect the working relationship that your two parties have?
I don't think there'll be any significant change on our relationship. We've been using the power that we have to force this government to act, and we've been able to deliver some concrete things, and we're going to continue to do that. We've delivered on dental care for kids under 12. That went out the door. Over 300,000 families were able to successfully get that support so their kids can get their teeth looked after. And now we're going to push to make sure that it expands to seniors and kids 18 and under. That's something we're going to continue to force this government to deliver on, something that we put in the agreement. We're going to force them to deliver on that. There are additional steps that we need to take. We force this government to deliver on things like doubling the GST rebate. That's going to put money in people's pockets. It's already done that. That's something we're going to continue to push for to see as a real form of relief in people's pockets. And we're going to use the power that we have in this agreement to continue to fight for those things. We need to see some real urgent action on mitigation and adaptation, making sure that fund is available for municipalities so they can prepare for the realities of the climate crisis. So we're going to use our power to do that as well.
Thank you. And then I guess, will this change how maybe business is done between the two parties? For example, maybe new cabinet members have to be briefed on past meetings that your parties have had together. Does this change, I guess, how business is done?
I don't see there being a significant change in the way we continue to push this government to deliver. There may be new ministers that will have to be briefed up. Our team works with ministers on the other side, and so that's going to happen with whoever the new ministers are. But we're going to continue to do what we've done. Throughout this minority government, New Democrats have used our power to get people real concrete results. We've forced this government to deliver on dental care, like I said, something that the Liberals would never have done, but for the fact we forced them to. And the Conservatives, while having significantly more members of Parliament than New Democrats, can't really point to any concrete things that they've done to make people's lives better in this past minority government. We can't. Because for us, the job of being in Parliament is to make life better for people, to fight to get things to happen that will relieve some of the pressure on the shoulders of working families. And we're going to do that with dental care, with the doubling of the GST rebate, with additional steps to make life more affordable when it comes to taking on the grocery companies that are making record profits while you pay the highest prices in groceries that you paid. We're going to continue to fight to make sure there's more fairness there. So we're going to continue to do our work. Whatever happens with the cabinet shuffle won't change our commitment to Canadians to fight for them, to continue to deliver results.
A reminder to those joining us on Zoom, please use the raised hand function if you would like to ask a question. Go ahead, David.
Hi, thanks for taking another question. Mrs. I just want to come back to the confidence and supply agreement. Again, we're seeing a reset on the Liberal side of things when it comes to this cabinet shuffle. Have you been doing any thinking about whether it's time to amend that agreement that you have with the Liberals to account for the changes that we've seen in the economy, changes that we've seen in other places, and certainly changes that we're going to see in the ministers' portfolios?
What we negotiated gave us the flexibility to fight for things that are outside the agreement. And we acknowledged that when we fought for the doubling of the GST rebate. That was something that we imagined when we negotiated the agreement. And it was something that Canadians needed. They needed a relief. They needed some money back in the pockets, and we were able to do that. Similarly, we're going to continue to fight for things that are outside the agreement. And we're going to use the power that we have with the things that we negotiated to force this government to deliver. They would not have delivered dental care but for the fact that we've got it in writing. We're going to continue to fight to make sure that happens. So there's 27 things that we fought for that we are going to force this government to deliver on. We've delivered already on a number of those. Legislation to make the childcare funding permanent. That's something that we included in the agreement. We fought for and we delivered on that to keep the cost of childcare down, to make sure it's more affordable for families, to save them money, and to ensure that they can get their kids looked after that way. So there's a number of things that we still have to deliver on that we're going to continue to fight for. And we're going to use our power to fight for things outside of the agreement like we've done, like we're raising today for municipalities that are impacted by the climate crisis. They need a real investment in an adaptation and mitigation fund, a disaster relief fund that allows them to make proactive investments to protect their communities. We're going to fight for that as well.
Right, we were just listening to NDP leader Jagmeet Singh reacting to news that 3 more ministers will be shuffled out of Justin Trudeau's cabinet. That is expected, that big cabinet shuffle expected to happen tomorrow. Jagmeet Singh saying that he does not expect this to change the NDP's working relationship with the Liberal Party, and that the NDP will continue to pressure the Liberal government to meet its promises. And as we were mentioning there, breaking news from Ottawa, CTV News has confirmed 3 more ministers will be leaving Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's cabinet ahead of what's expected to be that major shuffle tomorrow. Public Safety Minister Marco Mendicino, Justice Minister David Lametti, and Treasury Board President Mona Fortier all on their way out. This comes after 4 other federal ministers announced they will not run again in the next federal election. The ministers of Transport, Mental Health, Fisheries and Oceans, and Public Services all saying it's time.